The morning sun filtered through the oak trees at Riverside Park, casting gentle shadows across the empty playground. Elena Castillo walked slowly along the gravel path, her hand loosely holding that of her 6-year-old daughter Sophia. The little girl's dark eyes swept across the familiar landscape with quiet intensity, taking in every detail as if seeing it for the first time. Elena paused at their usual bench, the one with the perfect view of the swing set and climbing structure. She brushed away the fallen leaves and settled down, watching as Sophia immediately pulled out her worn sketch pad and a small box of colored pencils. Without a word, the child began to draw. The park was nearly deserted at this early hour, just the way Elena preferred it. Fewer children meant fewer stares, fewer well-meaning questions from other mothers about why Sophia never played with the other kids, why she never called out or laughed or chatted the way 6-year-olds should. Elena had grown tired of explaining that her daughter was perfectly normal, just quiet. Very quiet. For 2 years now, Sophia's pencil moved across the paper with practiced precision, sketching the outline of the empty swings. She had filled dozens of notebooks with drawings of this park, capturing moments of childhood joy that she observed but never participated in. Her artwork was remarkably detailed for someone so young, each picture telling a story that her voice could not. A jogger passed by, nodding politely to Elena before continuing on the winding path. Sophia looked up briefly, studying the runner's movement, then returned to her drawing, adding quick strokes to suggest motion and energy. She understood the world around her, absorbed every detail, but remained locked in her silent bubble. Elena reached into her purse and pulled out a thermos of coffee, the bitter warmth providing small comfort against the morning chill. Her shift at the hospital had ended just hours ago, and exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders. But these morning visits to the park had become sacred time, the only place where Sophia seemed truly at peace. A squirrel scampered across the playground, and Sophia's head turned to follow its path. Her lips curved into the slightest smile, a rare expression that made Elena's heart flutter with hope. Maybe today would be different. Maybe today would be the day her daughter found her voice again. The sound of a maintenance truck rumbling into the parking lot broke the morning stillness. Sophia glanced up, her pencil pausing mid-stroke as she watched a man climb out of the vehicle and begin unloading tools. Elena noticed too, wondering if this meant their peaceful routine would be disrupted by construction noise. But Sophia seemed intrigued rather than disturbed. She turned to a fresh page in her sketchpad and began drawing the newcomer, capturing the careful way he arranged his equipment and the gentle manner in which he approached the playground. Even from a distance, there was something different about this man, something that made both mother and daughter pause and watch with curious attention. Elena sipped her coffee and settled back against the bench, allowing herself this moment of quiet observation. Whatever was about to unfold, she sensed it would be important. Sophia had stopped drawing and was watching the maintenance worker with an intensity that Elena hadn't seen in months. For the first time in a long while, her daughter seemed truly interested in another person's presence. The morning was full of possibility, even if Elena didn't yet understand what that might mean. Marcus Thompson adjusted his work gloves and surveyed the playground equipment with a practiced eye. The swing set needed new chains, the climbing structure had a few loose bolts, and the sandbox border required reinforcement. Simple maintenance tasks that would keep the children safe, though he suspected his new supervisor had no idea how much thought went into each repair. He had taken this job for practical reasons. The pay was steady, the work was outdoors, and most importantly, it allowed him the flexibility to pick up his 7-year-old son Caleb from school each afternoon. After 3 years of prestigious clinical practice as a child psychologist, Marcus had learned that job titles meant nothing when you couldn't be present for the people who mattered most. As he began checking the swing chains for wear, Marcus noticed the woman and child sitting on the nearby bench. The little girl was drawing intently, while her mother watched with a mixture of hope and worry that he recognized immediately. He had seen that expression countless times in his former office, on the faces of parents who loved their children fiercely but felt helpless to reach them. The child's posture caught his attention. She sat with perfect stillness, her entire focus channeled into her artwork. There was something deliberate about her silence. Not the casual quiet of a shy child, but the intentional withdrawal of someone protecting themselves. Marcus had worked with enough young patients to recognize the difference. He moved to the next swing, testing the stability of the seat while stealing glances at the girl's sketchpad. Even from this distance, he could see that her drawings were remarkably sophisticated for someone her age. She was capturing not just the physical details of the playground, but the emotional essence of the space, the way morning light transformed ordinary equipment into something magical. Marcus pulled out his wrench and began tightening the bolts on the climbing structure. Each turn of the tool was measured and quiet, conscious that any sudden noise might startle the observant child. In his previous career, he had learned that healing often began with creating safe spaces where children could simply exist without pressure or expectation. The maintenance work was meditative in a way his therapy sessions had never been. There was satisfaction in fixing tangible problems, in knowing that a properly secured swing would keep a child safe for years to come. His hands, once used primarily for taking notes and gesturing during conversations, now bore the honest calluses of manual labor. A small red pickup truck pulled into the parking lot, and Marcus recognized his neighbor dropping off her grandson for an early morning play session. The boy immediately ran toward the swings, his excited chatter filling the peaceful air. Marcus watched as the silent girl on the bench looked up from her drawing, studying the newcomer with careful attention. The running boy didn't notice the quiet observers as he claimed the nearest swing and began pumping his legs to gain height. His joyful shouts seemed to fascinate the little artist, who had turned to a fresh page and was now sketching the motion and energy of uninhibited play. Marcus found himself watching both children, noting the stark contrast between the boisterous swing rider and the contemplative observer. In his professional days, he would have immediately begun formulating therapeutic strategies, considering the dynamics of social interaction and communication challenges. Now he simply observed, allowing his instincts to guide him toward understanding without the pressure of clinical diagnosis. The boy on the swing eventually noticed the girl drawing and called out a friendly greeting. She looked up briefly, made eye contact, then returned to her artwork without responding. The boy, undeterred by her silence, continued his enthusiastic swinging while occasionally glancing over to see what she was creating. Marcus tightened the last bolt on the climbing structure and moved toward the sandbox area. As he passed closer to the bench, he could see more clearly the remarkable detail in the girl's drawings. She had captured not just the physical appearance of the playground, but the emotional atmosphere, the way children's joy transformed ordinary equipment into magical adventure. The mother caught him looking and offered a tentative smile. Marcus nodded respectfully, sensing her protective instincts while recognizing her underlying exhaustion. He had worked with enough families to understand that loving a struggling child could be simultaneously the most rewarding and most draining experience in the world. As he began examining the sandbox border, Marcus allowed himself to consider the possibilities. Sometimes healing happened in the most unexpected places through the most ordinary interactions. Perhaps this job change, which had felt like a professional setback, was actually positioning him exactly where he needed to be. The following Tuesday morning brought the same routine. Elena parked in her usual spot, walked the familiar path to the bench, and watched Sophia settle into her artistic ritual. The maintenance man was there again, working methodically on the playground equipment with the same quiet efficiency she had observed the previous week. Sophia opened her sketchpad to a fresh page and immediately began drawing the man with the tools. Her pencil captured the deliberate way he moved, the careful attention he paid to each task. Elena noticed that her daughter seemed particularly interested in drawing his hands, the way they held the tools with both strength and gentleness. At 3:30 that afternoon, Marcus returned to the park with Caleb bouncing beside him. His son had inherited his mother's boundless energy and his father's curiosity about people. The moment they arrived, Caleb spotted the playground and raced toward the swings, his backpack flying behind him like a cape. Elena and Sophia were still there, occupying their usual bench. The little girl had switched from morning sketches to afternoon observations, her pencil now capturing the golden light that filtered through the trees. She looked up when Caleb's enthusiastic whoops filled the air, her dark eyes tracking his movement with scientific precision. Marcus settled onto a nearby bench, close enough to supervise, but far enough to give Caleb independence. He pulled out a paperback book, but found himself watching the silent interaction between his son and the artist girl. Caleb had noticed her too, stealing glances between his energetic swinging sessions. After 10 minutes of swinging, Caleb's curiosity overcame his shyness. He jumped down and approached Sophia's bench with the fearless confidence of a 7-year-old. Elena tensed slightly, her protective instincts activating, but Sophia looked up from her drawing with genuine interest. "What are you drawing?" Caleb asked, peering over her shoulder at the sketchpad. Sophia tilted the page toward him, showing a detailed illustration of him on the swings. His eyes widened with delight at seeing himself captured in her artwork. "That's really good," Caleb said sincerely. "You made me look like I was flying." Sophia's lips curved into the faintest smile, the first genuine expression of pleasure Elena had seen in weeks. The child pointed to the swing set, then back at her drawing, as if asking if Caleb wanted to see more. Marcus watched this interaction with professional interest disguised as casual parental supervision. Caleb had always possessed an intuitive understanding of others, a gift that made him naturally therapeutic without realizing it. The boy seemed to understand instinctively that this girl communicated differently and accepted that difference without question. Sophia flipped through several pages of her sketchpad, showing Caleb drawings of the park from different times of day, different seasons, different moods. Each illustration revealed her deep connection to this space and her remarkable ability to capture emotional atmospheres through simple pencil strokes. "Do you come here every day?" Caleb asked. Sophia nodded, then pointed to the bench where she and her mother sat. Caleb looked over at Elena, who offered him a warm smile despite her nervousness about the interaction. "I'm Caleb," the boy announced to both Sophia and Elena. "My dad works here fixing the playground stuff. He says it's important to keep everything safe so kids can play without getting hurt." He gestured toward Marcus, who raised his hand in a friendly wave. Elena felt compelled to respond to the boy's openness. "I'm Elena, and this is Sophia. We love coming here in the mornings before it gets crowded." Her voice carried the careful politeness of a mother protecting her child from potential disappointment or rejection. Caleb studied Sophia with the matter-of-fact assessment of childhood. "Does Sophia talk?" he asked directly, without judgment or concern. Elena's breath caught, but before she could formulate a diplomatic response, Sophia surprised everyone by shaking her head honestly. No pretense, no shame, just simple acknowledgement of her reality. "That's okay," Caleb said with genuine acceptance. "My grandpa doesn't talk much either since his stroke, but we still have fun together. He shows me things instead of telling me." The boy's natural wisdom struck both adults as remarkable, though neither fully understood its significance yet. Sophia turned to a blank page and began sketching Caleb standing beside her bench. She drew quickly, capturing not just his physical appearance, but something essential about his kind, open nature. When she finished, she tore the page carefully from her notebook and offered it to him. Caleb accepted the drawing with reverence, understanding that he was receiving something precious. "Thank you," he said solemnly. "This is the best picture anyone ever made of me." Sophia's smile grew wider, a genuine expression of joy that transformed her entire face. Marcus closed his unread book, recognizing that something important was beginning. Elena watched her daughter's animated interaction with growing amazement, seeing social engagement that had been absent for 2 long years. Both parents sensed they were witnessing the first tentative steps of an unexpected friendship that might change everything. Thursday morning brought an unexpected development. Sophia carried not only her usual sketchpad, but also a small wooden box that Elena recognized as her daughter's most treasured possession. Inside were special colored pencils, the expensive ones Elena had bought during a moment of desperate hope months ago, thinking that better art supplies might somehow unlock her daughter's voice. When they reached their bench, Sophia opened both the sketch pad and the wooden box, arranging the colored pencils with ceremonial care. Elena watched with curiosity, unsure what had prompted this change in routine. Sophia had never brought the special pencils to the park before, preferring to keep them safe at home. Marcus was already at work, replacing worn rubber matting beneath the swing set. He had noticed the mother and daughter's arrival and the unusual addition to their morning ritual. The colorful pencils caught the sunlight, creating small rainbows on the bench surface that seemed to fascinate the little girl. At exactly 3:45, Caleb arrived with his father, bounding toward the playground with his characteristic enthusiasm. But today, instead of heading straight for the swings, he detoured to Sophia's bench. He had been thinking about their encounter since Tuesday, replaying the moment when she had given him the drawing. "Hi, Sophia," he said, settling cross-legged on the ground in front of her bench. "What are you making today?" Sophia looked up from her careful pencil arrangement and pointed to the colored supplies, then to her blank page. Caleb's eyes widened with appreciation. "Those are really fancy pencils," he observed. "Are you going to make a special picture?" Sophia nodded solemnly, then surprised everyone by patting the empty space on the bench beside her. An invitation. Caleb glanced back at his father for permission, received an encouraging nod, and climbed onto the bench. Sophia immediately opened her sketch pad and began drawing, but this time something was different. Instead of her usual solitary concentration, she would pause occasionally to show Caleb her progress, seeking his opinion through raised eyebrows and questioning glances. She was drawing the playground, but not as Elena had ever seen her daughter depicted before. This version was alive with movement and color, filled with imaginary children playing games that existed only in Sophia's mind. Swings soared through rainbow arcs, slides became waterfalls of sunshine, and the climbing structure transformed into a castle tower. Caleb watched the magical scene emerge with quiet amazement. "It looks like the playground is having a party," he whispered, not wanting to break the creative spell. Sophia smiled and nodded, then did something that made Elena's heart skip. She handed Caleb a blue-colored pencil and pointed to an empty space on the paper. "You want me to draw something?" Caleb asked. Sophia nodded eagerly and guided his hand toward a spot near the swings. Understanding her invitation, Caleb carefully drew a stick figure of himself, complete with his characteristic wild hair and wide smile. Sophia clapped silently, her approval evident in her bright expression. For the next 20 minutes, both children worked on the collaborative artwork. Sophia would draw elaborate landscapes and magical elements, while Caleb added simple figures and details that brought her imaginative world to life. They communicated entirely through gestures, pointing, and shared understanding. Marcus found himself abandoning his maintenance tasks to watch this unprecedented collaboration. In his professional experience, he had rarely seen such natural therapeutic interaction between children. Caleb's instinctive acceptance and Sophia's gradual opening reminded him why he had originally chosen to work with young people. Elena sat transfixed, watching her daughter engage in genuine social interaction for the first time in 2 years. Sophia was animated, expressive, and clearly joyful in a way that expensive therapy sessions had never achieved. The change was subtle but unmistakable, as if a door that had been locked tight was finally beginning to crack open. The finished drawing depicted a fantasy playground where everything was possible. Children flew on magical swings, slid down rainbow slides, and climbed castles made of clouds. In the center, 2 small figures sat together on a bench, one with long dark hair and one with shorter brown hair, both surrounded by art supplies and surrounded by joy. When they completed their masterpiece, Sophia carefully tore the page from her notebook. But instead of keeping it or giving it to Caleb, she walked over to where Marcus was working and shyly offered the drawing to him. The gesture surprised everyone, including Marcus, who accepted the artwork with obvious appreciation. "This is beautiful," Marcus said gently. "Thank you for sharing this with me." Sophia nodded seriously, as if she understood that she was entrusting him with something precious. She returned to the bench where Caleb was waiting, and both children began planning their next collaborative creation. Elena realized she was witnessing something extraordinary. Her daughter had not only connected with another child, but had also reached out to include the kind maintenance man in their circle. For the first time in months, Elena allowed herself to believe that healing might actually be possible, that her daughter's silence might not be permanent after all. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the playground as both families prepared to leave, but neither Sophia nor Caleb seemed ready to end their artistic partnership. They had discovered something rare and precious together, a communication that transcended words. Friday afternoon brought unseasonable warmth, and Elena found herself lingering at the park longer than usual. Sophia and Caleb had established their collaborative routine with the natural ease of old friends, transforming the bench into their shared creative headquarters. Today, Sophia had brought construction paper along with her colored pencils, expanding their artistic possibilities. Marcus finished his scheduled maintenance early and found himself drawn to a nearby bench where he could observe the children's interaction while appearing to read his paperwork. What he witnessed continued to amaze his trained eye. The two children had developed an intricate nonverbal communication system that was both sophisticated and completely natural. Elena watched her daughter teach Caleb how to layer colors for sunset effects, guiding his hand with gentle touches and encouraging nods. The level of trust Sophia displayed was remarkable, considering her usual reluctance to let anyone into her carefully controlled world. She had never shown this kind of patience or engagement with other children, not even before the trauma that had stolen her voice. "Excuse me," Elena found herself saying as Marcus passed near their bench. "I hope you don't mind the children using this space for their art projects. I can make sure they clean up any mess." Her voice carried the apologetic tone of a parent who had grown accustomed to explaining and defending her child's differences. Marcus paused, recognizing the invitation for conversation. "Please don't worry about it," he said warmly. "It's wonderful to see the playground being used so creatively. Your daughter has remarkable artistic talent." His professional instincts told him to tread carefully, to build trust slowly with this protective mother. "Sophia has always loved to draw," Elena replied, her voice softening with pride. "It's her way of making sense of the world, I think. She notices things that most people miss and captures them in ways that take my breath away." There was something wistful in her tone, a hint of deeper struggles beneath the surface. Caleb looked up from their shared artwork and addressed his father directly. "Dad, can Sophia come to the park tomorrow, too? We're making a whole book of playground pictures, and she has the best ideas." His innocent request created an opportunity for the adults to acknowledge their children's growing friendship. "I think that would be lovely," Marcus said, glancing at Elena for confirmation. "If your mom agrees, of course." He could see the careful consideration in Elena's eyes, the way she weighed potential risks against her daughter's obvious happiness. Elena looked at Sophia, who was watching the adult conversation with intense focus. Where her daughter nodded eagerly, Elena felt her protective walls soften slightly. "We come most mornings around 9, she said. "If you're sure it's not disrupting your work." Her words were directed at Marcus, but her eyes were on Sophia's animated face. "Actually," Marcus said carefully, "I've been wondering if Sophia might be interested in some of the therapeutic art programs in the city. Not that she needs therapy," he added quickly, seeing Elena's defensive posture return. "But there are some wonderful programs that celebrate children's artistic abilities and provide opportunities for creative expression with peers." Elena's expression grew guarded. "We've tried therapy," she said quietly. "Multiple approaches, actually. The doctors mean well, but nothing seems to help her find her voice again." The pain in her voice was unmistakable, the exhaustion of a mother who had fought countless battles on her child's behalf. Marcus nodded with genuine understanding. "Sometimes healing happens in unexpected ways," he said gently. What Sophia and Caleb have created together is more therapeutic than any clinical setting could provide. They found their own language, their own way of connecting that honors who they are right now. Sophia had been listening to the adult conversation while continuing to draw, her artistic multitasking abilities impressive. Suddenly, she looked up at Marcus with serious eyes and held out her sketch pad, showing him a new drawing she had created while they talked. The picture showed 4 stick figures sitting together on a bench. 2 small figures in the middle were surrounded by art supplies and rainbow colors, while 2 larger figures sat on either side, watching with obvious care and attention. Above the scene, Sophia had drawn a bright sun with an unusually warm smile. "Is this all of us?" Marcus asked, recognizing the significance of being included in Sophia's artistic documentation. Sophia nodded solemnly, then surprised everyone by pointing to each figure and then to the corresponding real person. She had created a family portrait of sorts, capturing this moment of connection and possibility. Elena felt tears prick her eyes as she realized her daughter had drawn them as a unit, a group of people who belonged together in this space. It was the first time in 2 years that Sophia had depicted herself as part of a larger community, surrounded by others who accepted and valued her exactly as she was. Caleb studied the drawing with appreciation. "That's us," he announced with satisfaction. "We look happy together." His simple observation carried profound truth that resonated with both adults. As the afternoon shadows grew longer, both families began gathering their belongings. But Sophia hesitated before closing her sketch pad, looking between Marcus and Elena with an expression that seemed to be asking permission for something important. Finally, she tore out the family portrait and offered it to Marcus, just as she had done with the playground fantasy the day before. But this time, she also pointed to Elena, indicating that the drawing was meant for both adults to share. Marcus accepted the gift with reverence, understanding that Sophia was entrusting them with her vision of possibility, her hope that this unlikely group might continue to grow and flourish together. Saturday morning brought a gentle rain that transformed the park into a watercolor painting. Elena almost stayed home, but Sophia stood by the front door with her art supplies and raincoat, making it clear that weather would not deter her from their established routine. Elena smiled at her daughter's determination and grabbed an umbrella. They found Marcus already at work, wearing a rain slicker and methodically checking the playground equipment for any weather-related issues. The sight of him working steadily despite the drizzle somehow reassured Elena that their growing connection was built on reliability and consistency, qualities she had learned to value above all else. Sophia settled onto their bench under Elena's umbrella and opened her sketch pad to reveal yesterday's collaborative artwork with Caleb. She had spent the evening adding details to their shared creations, enhancing the magical playground scene with tiny raindrops that looked like diamonds and storm clouds that resembled gentle giants watching over the children below. "You worked on this at home," Elena observed, surprised by this extension of park activities into their private space. Sophia nodded and pointed to a small addition she had made, a figure that looked remarkably like Marcus standing beside the playground equipment with tools in his hands and a kind expression on his face. When Marcus noticed them despite the weather, he approached their bench with a warm smile. "I'm impressed by your dedication," he told Elena. "Rain or shine, you two are here." His tone held admiration rather than judgment, recognizing the effort it took to maintain consistency in a child's routine. "Sophia insisted," Elena replied, adjusting the umbrella to keep the sketchpad dry. "She's become quite attached to this place, and I think she was worried that Caleb might come looking for her." The admission revealed how much Elena understood about her daughter's emotional investment in their new friendship. Marcus glanced at the enhanced artwork Sophia was displaying. "She's been working on your collaborative pieces at home," he observed. "That shows real commitment to the creative partnership she and Caleb have developed." His professional, I noted the significance of Sophia extending their park relationship into her personal time and space. Sophia looked up at Marcus and then at her sketch pad, seeming to make a decision. She flipped to a page Elena had never seen before, one that must have been created in private moments at home. The drawing showed the park in 4 different weather conditions: bright sunshine, gentle rain, swirling autumn leaves, and sparkling snow. "You've imagined our park in every season," Marcus said with genuine appreciation. "These are beautiful, Sophia. You see possibilities that others might miss." His words carried weight beyond simple compliment, acknowledging her unique perspective and artistic vision. The rain began to subside, and right on schedule, Caleb appeared with his father, both wearing bright yellow rain jackets that made them look like cheerful ducks. Caleb's face lit up when he saw Sophia waiting despite the weather, and he ran toward their bench with obvious excitement. "You came even in the rain," Caleb announced with delight. "I was hoping you would be here." His honest pleasure at seeing Sophia again created visible joy on the little girl's face, the kind of uncomplicated happiness that had been absent from her life for too long. Sophia immediately showed Caleb the weather drawings, pointing out details she had added to represent different seasonal possibilities for their playground adventures. Caleb studied each panel with serious attention, understanding that Sophia was sharing her vision of their friendship, continuing through time and changing circumstances. "We should make pictures for all the seasons," Caleb suggested enthusiastically. "Spring flowers, summer sunshine, fall leaves, winter snow. We could have a whole calendar of our park." His idea sparked immediate excitement in Sophia, who began sketching rough concepts even as they talked. Marcus and Elena found themselves standing together under the umbrella, watching their children plan elaborate artistic projects with the seriousness of professional collaborators. The natural ease with which the adults had begun sharing space and conversation surprised them both. "Caleb has never been this excited about art before," Marcus mentioned quietly. "Sophia brings out creativity in him that I didn't even know existed. It's remarkable how they inspire each other." His observation revealed his growing appreciation for the mutual benefits of their children's friendship. Elena nodded thoughtfully. Sophia has never had a friend who accepted her silence so completely. Most children want immediate verbal responses, but Caleb seems to understand that she communicates in other ways. "It's given her confidence I haven't seen in years." As they talked, Sophia was showing Caleb how to create rain effects using the side of his pencil rather than the point. She guided his hand gently, demonstrating the technique with patience that impressed both watching adults. Her natural teaching ability suggested depths of social skill that had been hidden beneath her trauma-induced withdrawal. The sun began breaking through the clouds, creating dramatic lighting that caught Sophia's artistic attention immediately. She grabbed Caleb's sleeve and pointed upward, showing him how the light transformed the wet playground equipment into something magical and new. Both children began sketching frantically, trying to capture the ephemeral beauty of the post-rain moment. Their collaborative energy was infectious, drawing smiles from their parents and creating a sense of shared wonder that extended far beyond simple artistic exercise. When they finished their latest creation, Sophia did something unprecedented. She looked directly at her mother and then at Marcus, pointed to the drawing, and then pointed to all 4 of them gathered under the umbrella. She was asking them to be part of the creative process, to join rather than simply observe their artistic world. Monday afternoon brought an unexpected test to Sophia's growing confidence. A group of older children had claimed the playground equipment, their loud voices and boisterous energy creating chaos where Sophia usually found peace. Elena noticed her daughter's immediate tension, the way she gripped her sketch pad more tightly and moved closer to the protective shelter of their bench. Caleb arrived with his usual enthusiasm, but quickly sensed the changed atmosphere. The older children were playing an aggressive game of tag that involved climbing on equipment and shouting commands to each other. Their energy dominated the space in a way that made quieter activities feel unwelcome. Sophia had begun to retreat into herself, her shoulders hunching defensively as she tried to focus on her drawing despite the surrounding noise. Elena recognized the signs of her daughter's anxiety building, The way Sophia's breathing became shallow when she felt overwhelmed by social situations beyond her control. Marcus was working on the far side of the playground, but had noticed the group dynamics immediately. His professional training kicked in as he observed how the older children's behavior was affecting the quieter park users. He began moving closer, ostensibly to check equipment, but actually to monitor the situation. One of the older boys, perhaps 9 years old, noticed Sophia's intense concentration on her artwork and approached with curiosity that quickly turned mocking. "What's she doing just sitting there drawing baby pictures?" he asked his friends loudly enough for everyone to hear. "This is a playground, not an art class." Sophia's pencil froze mid-stroke. Elena felt her protective instincts flare, but before she could respond, Caleb had positioned himself between Sophia and the older boy with surprising courage for someone 2 years younger. "She's making really amazing pictures," Caleb said firmly. "They're not baby pictures. They're better than anything I've ever seen." His loyalty to Sophia was immediate and unwavering, despite being outnumbered and outmatched in size. The older boy laughed dismissively. "Pictures are for little kids. Come on, we're girl. Why don't you actually play something instead of just sitting there like a statue?" His words carried the casual cruelty that children could inflict without fully understanding the damage they caused. Sophia's face flushed with embarrassment and fear. Elena started to rise from the bench, ready to intervene, but Marcus was already approaching with the calm authority that came from years of managing difficult situations. "Hey there," Marcus said to the group of older children, his tone friendly but firm. "I'm a maintenance supervisor here, and I need you guys to keep the volume down and be respectful of other park users. Everyone deserves to enjoy this space peacefully." The older boy looked rebellious for a moment, but something in Marcus's steady presence made him reconsider. "We weren't doing anything wrong," he muttered, but his aggressive energy had diminished considerably. "I understand you want to have fun," Marcus continued, "but fun shouldn't come at the expense of others feeling safe and welcome. There's plenty of space for everyone to enjoy the park in their own way." His words carried the weight of adult authority without being preachy or condescending. Sophia had been watching this interaction with wide eyes, seeing an adult defend her right to exist in her own quiet way. But what happened next surprised everyone, including Elena. Sophia stood up from a bench, walked over to where Marcus was standing with the older children, and held up her sketch pad. She showed them the elaborate playground drawings she and Caleb had created, the magical scenes filled with color and imagination. The older children's mockery died away as they saw the genuine artistry in her work. Even the boy who had been teasing her looked genuinely impressed despite himself. "Wow," one of the girls in the group said quietly. "These are actually really good. Did you really draw all of these?" Sophia nodded, her confidence growing slightly at the unexpected recognition of her abilities. Caleb moved to stand beside Sophia, his earlier courage having paved the way for this moment of validation. "Sophia's the best artist I know," he announced proudly. "She can draw anything, and she makes everything look magical." The older boy who had initiated the confrontation shifted uncomfortably, perhaps recognizing that his attempt at bullying had backfired. "I guess they're okay," he admitted grudgingly, unable to deny the obvious talent displayed in Sophia's artwork. Marcus nodded approvingly at both children. Sophia and Caleb have been working together to create some amazing collaborative art. It's been wonderful to watch their friendship develop through creativity. His words elevated their activities to something worthy of respect and admiration. As the older children moved away to continue their games in a different area, Sophia surprised everyone by tugging gently on Marcus's sleeve. When he looked down, she pointed to herself, then to Caleb, then to him, making a gesture that seemed to encompass all three of them as a protective unit. "Thank you for standing up for us," Caleb said to Marcus, expressing what Sophia could not yet voice but clearly felt. Sophia nodded emphatically, her eyes bright with gratitude and something that looked remarkably like trust. Elena watched from the bench as her daughter experienced being defended and valued by someone outside their small family circle. For the first time in 2 years, Sophia had been in a potentially difficult social situation and had not only survived it, but had actually advocated for herself by sharing her artwork. The afternoon sun cast long shadows as the park began to empty, but Sophia remained standing near Marcus and Caleb, no longer retreating to the safety of the bench. She had discovered that she could be vulnerable and protected at the same time, that showing her talents to others might lead to acceptance rather than rejection. Wednesday morning found Elena sitting alone on their usual bench, watching Sophia play tentatively on the swing set for the first time since they had started visiting the park. The events of Monday had shifted something fundamental in her daughter's relationship with the space, transforming it from purely an observation post to a place where she might actually participate. Marcus was installing new safety padding around the climbing structure when he noticed Sophia's brave venture onto the playground equipment. He had been thinking about Monday's incident, particularly how naturally he had stepped into a protective role that felt both familiar and rusty after 3 years away from professional practice. Elena found herself walking over to where Marcus was working, drawn by a need to acknowledge what he had done for Sophia and perhaps to understand better this man who had become so important to her daughter's healing. "I wanted to thank you properly for Monday," Elena began, her voice carrying gratitude mixed with something deeper. "Sophia has been different since then. More confident, somehow. She's never stood up for herself like that before, never shown her artwork to strangers willingly." Marcus paused in his work, recognizing the significance of this conversation. "Sophia found her own courage," he said carefully. "I just provided a safe space for her to discover what was already there. She's remarkable, Elena. Her resilience and strength are extraordinary." Elena studied his face, noting the way he spoke about her daughter with professional insight that seemed to go beyond casual observation. "You see things in her that most people miss," she said slowly. "The way you handled those older children, the way you talk about Sophia's development. Are you sure maintenance work is your primary background?" The direct question hung in the air between them. Marcus had been expecting this moment, knowing that his instincts and responses would eventually reveal more than he had initially intended to share. Elena deserved honesty, especially given the trust she was placing in him regarding Sophia's well-being. "I used to be a child psychologist," Marcus admitted quietly, his eyes fixed on the safety padding he was adjusting. "I had a private practice for several years before I changed careers. I still see the patterns, still recognize the signs, but I'm no longer in a position to offer professional help." Elena felt pieces clicking into place, understanding suddenly why Marcus's interactions with Sophia had felt so naturally therapeutic. "What made you change careers?" she asked, her tone gentle rather than accusatory. "You're obviously gifted at working with children." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching Sophia pump her legs tentatively on the swing, building confidence with each forward motion. "I lost my wife in a car accident 3 years ago," he said finally. "After that, I couldn't find meaning in sitting in an office talking about healing when my own world had fallen apart. I needed work that felt more immediate, more tangible." The revelation shifted Elena's understanding of Marcus completely. She recognized the pain in his voice, the familiar weight of loss that she carried in her own way. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "That must have been devastating, especially with Caleb so young." "Sophia stopped speaking after a trauma too, didn't she?" Marcus asked gently, his professional instincts merging with personal experience. "The way she holds herself, the careful way she observes everything before engaging. Something happened that made silence feel safer than words." Elena nodded slowly, surprised by her willingness to share details she usually guarded fiercely. 2 years ago, we were in a car accident. Not serious injuries, but Sophia was in the back seat when another car ran a red light and slammed into us. She spoke normally right up until that moment, then just stopped. Complete selective mutism since then. Marcus felt the connection deepened between their experiences, understanding now why Sophia's healing journey felt so personally important to him. "Trauma affects children differently than adults," he said. Sometimes silence becomes a way of maintaining control when everything else feels chaotic and unpredictable. Every therapist we've seen says the same thing, Elena replied with frustration. They give me clinical explanations, but no real solutions. Sophia goes through the motions in their offices, but never makes genuine progress. Yet here, with Caleb and you, she's more engaged than she's been in 2 years. Healing doesn't always happen in clinical settings, Marcus observed. Sometimes it requires organic relationships, genuine connections that develop naturally. Sophia trusts Caleb because he accepts her exactly as she is, without trying to fix or change her. That acceptance creates safety. Elena watched her daughter carefully dismount from the swing and walk purposefully toward their conversation, her sketchpad clutched in her hands. Sophia had been listening from a distance, absorbing the adult discussion about her condition and treatment with the serious attention she gave to everything important in her world. Sophia approached Marcus directly and opened her sketchpad to a page Elena had never seen before. It showed 2 adults sitting on a bench having a serious conversation while a small figure on a swing listened nearby. Above the scene, she had drawn storm clouds clearing to reveal sunshine, with the words "Thank you" written in careful block letters across the top. She wrote words. Elena whispered, her voice catching with emotion. "Sophia, you wrote actual words." It was the first time her daughter had put written language on paper since the accident. Another barrier crossed in her journey back to communication. Marcus accepted the drawing with profound understanding of its significance. Sophia had been processing their conversation about trauma and healing, recognizing that she was being seen and understood in ways that clinical settings had never achieved. Her written gratitude represented trust at a level that surprised everyone, including herself. Caleb chose that moment to arrive with perfect timing, running toward their group with his characteristic enthusiasm. When he saw the serious expressions and Sophia's meaningful artwork, he seemed to sense that something important had just occurred between the adults and his friend. Friday afternoon brought Dr. Patricia Reeves to the park for her weekly volunteer rounds, checking on community wellness initiatives and observing how public spaces served local families. As the head of child development services at the nearby medical center, she had made these informal assessments part of her routine for years. What caught her attention immediately was an unusual scene near the playground equipment. A maintenance worker was sitting cross-legged on the ground with 2 children, all 3 engaged in what appeared to be an elaborate collaborative art project spread across multiple sheets of paper. Elena watched from their bench as Sophia participated in what Marcus had begun calling therapeutic play sessions, though he was careful never to use clinical terminology around her daughter. The activities looked like simple games and art projects, but Elena recognized the subtle psychological principles at work in each carefully structured interaction. "Sophia, can you show Caleb how you create depth in your drawings using overlapping shapes?" Marcus suggested gently. His request was designed to build Sophia's confidence as a teacher while encouraging her to use more complex communication skills, even if they remained nonverbal. Sophia nodded seriously and began demonstrating her technique, positioning objects in her drawing so that some appeared in front of others. She guided Caleb's hand as he attempted to replicate the method, her patient instruction revealing leadership abilities that had been hidden beneath her withdrawn exterior. Dr. Reeves found herself moving closer, intrigued by the natural therapeutic dynamic she was witnessing. The maintenance worker's approach showed sophisticated understanding of child development principles, while the silent girl displayed advanced cognitive processing despite her obvious communication challenges. Caleb was struggling with the overlapping technique, his 7-year-old motor skills not quite matching his artistic ambitions. Sophia noticed his frustration and did something that made both Elena and Marcus hold their breath. She leaned close to Caleb and whispered something so quietly that only he could hear. "Sophia, help me understand it," Caleb announced to Marcus, his face bright with success as he managed to create the depth effect in his drawing. She explained it in a way that made sense. His casual reference to to Sophia's whispered instruction sent shock waves through the watching adults. Elena felt tears spring to her eyes. Her daughter had spoken to Caleb, actually used her voice to help her friend succeed. The moment was so natural and spontaneous that Sophia seemed unaware of the breakthrough she had just achieved. Dr. Reeves approached the group with professional curiosity mixed with genuine admiration. "Excuse me," she said to Marcus. "I'm Dr. Patricia Reeves from the medical center. I couldn't help but notice the wonderful work you're doing with these children. Are you a certified art therapist?" Marcus looked up, recognizing the potential complications of this encounter. "I'm the park maintenance supervisor," he said carefully. "But I do have some background in child development. We're just enjoying some creative time together." "The techniques you're using are remarkably sophisticated," Dr. Reeves observed. "The way you're building confidence, encouraging peer instruction, creating safe spaces for communication. It's textbook therapeutic intervention, but implemented with remarkable naturalness." Sophia had been listening to this conversation with growing anxiety, sensing that the adult discussion might threaten their precious routine. She looked between Marcus and the newcomer with worry, then made a decision that surprised everyone. She walked directly to Dr. Reeves and offered her the collaborative artwork she and Caleb had just completed. "This is beautiful," Dr. Reeves said, accepting the drawing with appropriate reverence. "You're incredibly talented. Both of you are." She studied the artwork more carefully, noting the sophisticated use of perspective and the collaborative elements that showed genuine partnership between the young artists. Elena found herself approaching the group, drawn by protective instincts and curiosity about this official-looking woman who had noticed their informal therapy sessions. "I'm Elena, Sophia's mother," she introduced herself. "Is there some problem with them using the park this way?" "Quite the opposite, Dr. Reeves assured her. "I'm fascinated by what I'm seeing here. Your daughter is receiving what appears to be exceptionally effective therapeutic support. The progress indicators I'm observing are remarkable." Her professional excitement was genuine and infectious. Marcus stood, recognizing that his informal approach was about to be evaluated by official standards. "Dr. Reeves, I should mention that I'm a former child psychologist. I'm no longer practicing, but old habits die hard when you see children who could benefit from supportive interaction. Former practicing psychologist, now working maintenance and providing informal therapy in a park setting," Dr. Reeves mused. "That's either the most unconventional career transition I've ever encountered, or one of the most brilliant therapeutic innovations I've seen in years." Sophia tugged on Marcus's sleeve, clearly concerned about this official scrutiny of their safe space. She looked up at him with worried eyes, then pointed to herself, Caleb, and back to Marcus, as if asking whether their special time together was somehow wrong or problematic. "Nothing is going to change, Sophia," Marcus assured her gently. "We'll continue meeting here, just like always. Dr. Reeves is simply interested in the good work you and Caleb are doing together." His words were intended to reassure, but he could see Sophia's growing anxiety about adult interference in their carefully constructed healing environment. Dr. Reeves seemed to recognize the delicate nature of the situation. "I apologize if I've disrupted anything," she said to the group. "What you've created here is clearly working beautifully. I was simply impressed by the natural therapeutic community you've established." Caleb, unaware of the adult complexities surrounding their playtime, looked up at Dr. Reeves with his characteristic openness. "Do you want to draw with us too?" he asked. "Sophia's really good at teaching people, and we always have extra paper." His innocent invitation reminded everyone that at its heart, this was still about children finding joy and connection through simple creative expression. Monday morning arrived gray and cold, with Sophia displaying unusual reluctance about their park visit. She had spent the weekend worrying about Dr. Reeves's unexpected appearance, her child's mind creating scenarios where official adults might separate her from Marcus and Caleb or declare their special friendship inappropriate somehow. Elena noticed her daughter's anxiety immediately. Sophia moved more slowly than usual, checked and rechecked her art supplies multiple times, and kept glancing toward the door as if hoping they might skip their routine entirely. The setback was heartbreaking after weeks of steady progress. When they reached the park, Sophia remained unusually close to Elena's side instead of settling into their collaborative workspace. Her sketch pad stayed closed, and she watched Marcus work on the playground equipment with worried eyes rather than her usual artistic focus. Marcus recognized the change in Sophia's demeanor instantly. His professional experience had taught him that outside scrutiny could sometimes derail therapeutic progress, particularly with children who had learned to associate adult authority with disruption and loss of control. Caleb arrived with his characteristic enthusiasm, but quickly sensed that something was different about their usual dynamic. "Why isn't Sophia drawing today?" he asked his father directly. "Did we do something wrong on Friday?" His innocent question revealed how much the collaborative art sessions had become central to his own park experience. Sometimes when new people notice the special things we're doing, it can feel a little scary, Marcus explained gently. Sophia might be worried that things are going to change, even though nothing has to be different at all. His words were intended to reassure both children while acknowledging Sophia's legitimate concerns. Elena approached Marcus with Sophia still clinging closely to her side. "She's been anxious all weekend," Elena admitted quietly. "I think Dr. Reeves's questions worried her." Sophia doesn't understand the difference between professional curiosity and official intervention, and frankly, neither do I completely. Marcus nodded with understanding. "In my experience, children who have experienced trauma often interpret adult attention as potential threat, even when it's genuinely positive," he said. "Sophia built trust with us gradually, and sudden outside interest feels like a disruption to her carefully constructed sense of safety." Sophia had been listening to this conversation while staying pressed against her mother's leg. Suddenly, she surprised everyone by walking over to Marcus and touching his arm gently, then pointing to herself and shaking her head sadly. She was trying to communicate that she didn't want their special time to end. "Sophia, nothing is going to change between us," Marcus said, kneeling down to her eye level. "Dr. Reeves was excited about your amazing artwork, but that doesn't mean anyone wants to interfere with what we built together. You, me, and Caleb are a team, and teams stick together." Caleb moved to stand beside Sophia in a gesture of solidarity. "We're still going to make our art projects, right, Sophia?" he asked. "We haven't finished our season's calendar yet, and I was looking forward to drawing winter snow with you." His loyalty and consistency provided exactly the reassurance Sophia needed. For the first time that morning, Sophia opened her sketch pad, but instead of starting a new drawing, she flipped to a page she had worked on over the weekend. The picture showed 3 figures sitting together on a bench, surrounded by dark storm clouds. Above them, she had drawn a protective umbrella that kept them safe and dry. "Is that your way of showing that you want us to stay together, even when things feel uncertain?" Marcus asked, recognizing the symbolic nature of Sophia's artwork. She nodded emphatically, relieved that he understood her visual communication so clearly. Elena felt her own anxiety begin to dissolve as she watched Sophia's trust in Marcus reassert itself. The maintenance worker's response to her daughter's fears showed the same professional sensitivity that had drawn Sophia out of her shell in the first place. Dr. Reeves chose that moment to return to the park, but this time she approached more carefully, recognizing that her previous intervention might have created unintended stress. "Good morning," she called softly from a distance. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." Sophia immediately tensed, but instead of retreating completely, she looked to Marcus for guidance about how to handle this adult who had disrupted their peaceful world. Her willingness to seek his support rather than simply withdrawing showed remarkable growth in her coping strategies. "Dr. Reeves, we're having a quiet morning today," Marcus said diplomatically. Sophia was a bit overwhelmed by Friday's conversation, so we're taking things slowly and focusing on maintaining our routine. His words protected Sophia while remaining respectful to the medical professional. "I completely understand," Dr. Reeves said, maintaining her distance. "I didn't mean to create any anxiety. What you've accomplished here is extraordinary, and I have no interest in disrupting something that's clearly working so well. Her professional experience had taught her to recognize when her presence was counterproductive. Sophia listened to this exchange with careful attention, processing the adult reassurances that their special friendship would remain protected. Slowly, she opened her sketchpad to a fresh page and began drawing Dr. Reeves standing at a respectful distance, watching their group with kind eyes rather than intrusive ones. The drawing showed Sophia's evolving understanding that not all adult attention was threatening, that some grown-ups could observe and appreciate their healing work without trying to control or change it. She was learning to distinguish between supportive witnesses and disruptive authorities. Caleb watched Sophia begin to relax and immediately joined her artistic process, adding collaborative elements to her drawing that showed all of them coexisting peacefully in their shared park space. His natural optimism helped Sophia envision positive outcomes rather than fearful possibilities. Wednesday afternoon brought unexpected drama to their peaceful park routine. A young boy, perhaps 4 years old, had climbed too high on the jungle gym and found himself frozen with fear, unable to move up or down. His panic cries filled the air as his babysitter called frantically from below, unable to reach him safely. Sophia and Caleb had been working on their winter scene drawings when the commotion began. Elena immediately stood, her maternal instincts activated by the sound of a child in distress. Marcus was across the playground, checking the swing chains, but he began moving quickly toward the emergency. The little boy's fear was escalating rapidly. He was gripping the metal bars so tightly that his knuckles had turned white, and his tears were making it difficult for him to see clearly. The babysitter was young herself, probably a teenager, and her own panic was making the situation worse rather than better. "I'm coming up to help you," Marcus called to the frightened child as he began climbing the structure carefully. "Just hold on tight and don't try to move until I get there." His calm, authoritative voice cut through the chaos, providing the adult leadership the situation desperately needed. Sophia had been watching this crisis unfold with intense focus. She understood fear intimately, knew what it felt like to be trapped and unable to communicate your needs effectively. The little boy's terror resonated with memories of her own feelings of helplessness and isolation. Dr. Reeves had been observing from her usual respectful distance when the emergency began. She moved closer, ready to provide medical assistance if needed, but recognized that Marcus's child development expertise made him the best person to handle the psychological aspects of the rescue. "What's your name, buddy?" Marcus asked the frightened boy as he carefully positioned himself within arm's reach. "I'm Marcus, and I work here taking care of all the playground equipment. You're safe now, and I'm going to help you get down." His voice carried the professional calm that had once helped countless children through difficult moments. The little boy was too scared to answer verbally, but he managed to nod when Marcus asked if his name was Tommy. The babysitter called up confirmation, her relief evident as she watched an experienced adult take control of the dangerous situation. Sophia had been listening to Marcus's gentle coaching with the frightened child, recognizing techniques that felt familiar from their own therapeutic interactions. Something about witnessing Marcus help another scared child seemed to crystallize her own healing journey in a powerful way. As Marcus began guiding Tommy through the careful process of climbing down one step at a time, Sophia made a decision that stunned everyone within earshot. She stood up, walked closer to the jungle gym, and called out in a clear, strong voice that carried across the entire playground. "Tommy, you can do it. Marcus is really good at helping kids feel brave." The words rang through the air like a bell, the first full sentences Sophia had spoken in public in over 2 years. Elena's hand flew to her mouth in shock, tears immediately springing to her eyes as she heard her daughter's voice emerge from its long silence. Caleb spun around with amazement and delight. "Sophia, you talked. You used your real voice." His excitement was infectious, but he seemed to understand instinctively that this was a sacred moment that deserved respect rather than overwhelming celebration. Marcus paused in his rescue operation for just a moment, recognizing the extraordinary significance of Sophia's breakthrough. Her decision to speak had been motivated by empathy for another child's fear, by her desire to help rather than by any external pressure or therapeutic technique. "Thank you, Sophia," Marcus said, his voice carrying profound gratitude and pride. "Your encouragement is exactly what Tommy needs to hear right now." He continued, guiding the little boy down while acknowledging Sophia's contribution to the rescue effort. Dr. Reeves watched in professional amazement as Sophia continued to offer verbal encouragement to the frightened child. The breakthrough was happening in exactly the kind of organic, meaningful context that clinical settings struggled to replicate. Sophia had found her voice by focusing on someone else's needs rather than her own communication challenges. "That's right, Tommy," Sophia continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "Marcus helped me feel brave, too. You're almost down now. You're doing such a good job." Her natural coaching ability revealed itself fully as she provided exactly the kind of peer support that the younger child needed. When Tommy finally reached the ground safely, he ran immediately to his relieved babysitter. But before leaving with his caretaker, he looked back at Sophia with gratitude that transcended his young vocabulary. "Thank you for helping me be brave," he said simply. Sophia beamed with pride and purpose. She had discovered that her voice could be a tool for helping others, that speaking wasn't just about expressing her own needs, but about contributing to her community's well-being. The realization transformed her relationship with communication entirely. Elena approached her daughter with tears of joy streaming down her face. "Sophia, my darling girl, your voice is beautiful," she whispered, embracing her daughter with overwhelming gratitude and love. "I'm so proud of how you helped Tommy feel safe." Marcus climbed down from the jungle gym and walked over to Sophia with deep respect and admiration. "Sophia, what you did today was remarkable," he said. "You found your courage by helping someone else find theirs. That's the most beautiful kind of healing I've ever witnessed." The afternoon sun seemed brighter as Sophia realized that her silence was ending not with fanfare or clinical breakthroughs, but with the simple act of reaching out to help another frightened child feel less alone in the world. 2 weeks after Sophia's breakthrough, the park had transformed into something entirely different for both families. What had once been a place of quiet observation and careful healing had become a vibrant community space where Sophia's voice rang out regularly, mixing with Caleb's laughter and creating the soundtrack of genuine childhood joy. Sophia now greeted other children who approached their collaborative art sessions, explaining their techniques and inviting newcomers to participate. Her natural teaching abilities flourished as she discovered that sharing knowledge brought as much satisfaction as creating art herself. Elena watched in amazement as her once silent daughter became a confident communicator and gentle leader. Marcus had received an unexpected phone call from Dr. Reeves the previous week. She had spoken with the hospital administration about establishing an innovative community therapy program that would combine traditional clinical support with natural outdoor healing environments. They wanted Marcus to consider returning to professional practice in this revolutionary new capacity. "The program would let you continue working here in the park," Dr. Reeves had explained during their meeting. "You provide therapeutic support in natural settings while maintaining the organic relationships you've already established. It's unconventional, but your results speak for themselves." Elena found herself walking over to where Marcus was installing a new bench, a permanent addition that would create more seating for their expanding art community. Sophia and Caleb were nearby, teaching 2 younger children how to draw perspective using the playground equipment as models. "Dr. Reeves mentioned her proposal to me yesterday," Elena said, settling beside Marcus as he worked. "A community therapy program with you as the lead coordinator. It sounds like an amazing opportunity to help more families like ours." Her voice carried genuine enthusiasm for the possibility. Marcus paused in his work, considering the conversation he had been avoiding all week. "I'm torn," he admitted. "This work with Sophia and Caleb has been healing for me too, in ways I didn't expect. But I'm not sure I'm ready to return to formal practice, even in this innovative format. Sophia drew something for you yesterday, Elena said, pulling a folded paper from her purse. She wanted me to give it to you when the time felt right. She handed him the drawing, watching as he unfolded Sophia's latest creation. The picture showed Marcus in two versions of himself. On one side, he sat in an office chair looking sad and disconnected. On the other side, he knelt on playground grass surrounded by happy children, tools in one hand and art supplies in the other. Above both figures, Sophia had written, "Both can help, but one makes you smile too." Marcus stared at the drawing, recognizing Sophia's profound understanding of his internal conflict. She had captured his struggle between professional obligation and personal healing, while offering her childlike wisdom about finding purpose that brought joy rather than just duty. "She sees everything, doesn't she?" Marcus said softly, his voice filled with admiration for Sophia's insights. Even when she was silent, she was processing the emotional landscape around her with remarkable clarity. Caleb ran over to them, breathless with excitement about their latest artistic collaboration. "Dad, Sophia and I are making a guidebook for kids who want to learn how to draw playground stuff," he announced. "We're going to teach other children how to make art together, just like you taught us how to be friends." Sophia followed more slowly, her confidence in approaching adults now solid but still thoughtful. "Marcus," she said clearly, "Caleb and I want you to know that helping other kids like us would make the park even more special. You could teach more grown-ups how to understand children who need extra patience." Her articulate expression of this complex idea demonstrated how fully her communication skills had recovered and evolved. Elena felt pride surge through her as she listened to her daughter advocate, not just for herself, but for other struggling children who might benefit from Marcus's unique approach. Dr. Reeves arrived for her weekly visit, no longer an intrusive observer, but a welcomed member of their extended park community. She had been documenting Sophia's progress as a case study in alternative therapeutic approaches, with Elena's full permission and collaboration. "I brought something to share with everyone, Dr." Reeves announced, settling onto the new bench with a folder of official-looking documents. "The hospital board has approved the community therapy program, and they've allocated funding for a full pilot year. Marcus, if you're interested, you would have complete autonomy to develop the program according to your vision." Sophia looked between Marcus and Dr. Reeves with serious consideration. "Will you still have time for our regular art sessions?" she asked Marcus directly. "Because Caleb and I don't want to lose our special friendship time, even if you help other kids too." "Sophia, you and Caleb started this whole journey," Marcus assured her. "Our friendship isn't going anywhere. In fact, you two might become my assistant teachers, showing other children how collaboration and patience can create beautiful things." The idea sparked immediate enthusiasm in both children. Elena watched this conversation with deep gratitude for the community that had formed around her daughter's healing. What had begun as desperate mother seeking any small sign of progress had evolved into a support network that was changing not just Sophia's life, but the lives of everyone involved. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across their beloved playground, Sophia opened her sketchpad to a fresh page and began drawing their entire extended family. Elena and Marcus sitting together on a new bench, Caleb teaching another child to draw, Dr. Reeves taking notes with a smile, and herself standing confidently in the center, surrounded by art supplies and new friends. "This is our story," Sophia announced to the group, holding up the finished drawing. "It started with silence and patience, and now it's full of voices and possibilities." Her words carried the wisdom of someone who had traveled from darkness into light and wanted to help others make the same journey. If this story touched your heart, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite part, character, or if you've witnessed the incredible healing power of patience and understanding in your own life.